The sign was written in purple marker and taped inside the bakery window at the exact height of Sophie Bennett's face. Mom wanted. Underneath, in smaller letters, she had listed 3 qualifications. Likes cinnamon, knows bedtime stories, does not leave when things get hard. Noah saw the sign at the same moment he saw 3 customers lifting their phones. He was halfway through the dining room, with a tray of honey rolls balanced against one palm. The Saturday crowd filled every small table in Hearth and Honey. Sunlight turned the front windows gold. Behind the counter, the espresso machine hissed, the oven timer rang, and his mother said a word she had taught him not to repeat around Sophie. "Sweetheart," Noah called carefully. "Where did that come from?" Sophie stood beside the window in her yellow cardigan, one hand still holding the tape dispenser. At 8 years old, she had already learned that adults became suspiciously gentle when they were frightened. "I made it. I can see that," Mrs. Alvarez said, asking clearly. "Is better than expecting people to guess." One of the customers laughed. Another aimed her phone directly at Sophie. Noah set down the tray. The bell above the door rang before he reached the window. Conversation thinned, then stopped. Evelyn Thorne stepped into the bakery, wearing a deep navy suit and the expression that had made 400 employees sit straighter at the Thorne Urban Holdings annual meeting. Her dark hair was pinned low at her neck. A slim leather folder rested beneath one arm. She had come to discuss the future of the building, which was another way of saying she had come to discuss how long Noah had left inside it. Caleb Thorne followed her through the door with a company attorney and 2 members of the redevelopment team. Evelyn looked at Noah. Then she looked at the phones. Finally, she read the sign. Her face did not change until she reached the 3rd qualification. Does not leave when things get hard. She crossed the room. Noah expected her to ask for privacy. Evelyn preferred difficult conversations behind closed doors, where every word could be measured, and no one could mistake control for hesitation. Instead, she crouched in front of Sophie. "Did your father approve this vacancy?" she asked. Sophie shook her head. "He didn't know we had one." A laugh moved through the room. Noah closed his eyes for half a second. Evelyn stood, peeled the paper from the glass, and folded the tape neatly over the back. "Then the listing is premature," she said. Sophie frowned. "That means too early." "Correct. Are you throwing it away?" Evelyn held the sign between 2 fingers. The phones were still recording. Caleb had gone very still near the door. "No," Evelyn said. "The position is filled." Noah nearly dropped the tape dispenser Sophie had placed in his hand. Evelyn stepped behind the counter, removed her suit jacket, and reached for the spare black apron hanging beside the bread rack. "Where do you need me?" 22 days earlier, Noah had believed the most dangerous document in his bakery was the new supplier invoice for butter. He had been wrong. The letter arrived at 6:14 on a Tuesday morning, tucked beneath the front door while the first sourdough loaves were cooling on wire racks. Noah found it with flour on his forearms and a pencil behind one ear. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, and stamped with the dark silver mark of Thorne Urban Holdings. His mother saw the logo from the kitchen. "If that is another invitation to a luxury apartment launch," Irene Bennett said, "tell them I already have a home and no desire to live above a fountain." Noah opened the envelope. It announced that Thorne had acquired all 6 Marlowe Row buildings and proposed vacancy in 11 months. Irene came out wiping her hands on a towel. "How bad? They are calling it an invitation. That bad." Hearth and Honey had occupied number 18 for 39 years. Noah had learned fractions by cutting pastry dough. After Claire died, its timers gave every hour a requirement grief could not change. Irene read the letter twice. 11 months is not tomorrow," she said. "It is not long enough to recover a relocation. I didn't say we should relocate." Noah looked toward the tin ceiling, the old brick walls, and the front window his father had installed himself. We cannot buy the building at a redevelopment valuation. Then stop trying to solve the last page before breakfast. Sophie came down the narrow stairs from the apartment above the bakery, with one sock on and her hair pointing in 3 directions. Why are you making the meeting face? Noah folded the letter. What meeting face? The one where your eyebrows become a roof. Irene kissed the top of Sophie's head. A company bought our building. Noah gave his mother a look. Irene shrugged. Children can survive nouns. Sophie considered the information. Did they buy our oven, our recipes, the apartment? Noah hesitated. Irene answered. They bought the walls around all of it. Sophie looked at the brick beside the pastry case and pressed her palm against it, as if checking whether it already belonged to someone else. That afternoon, Noah attended the tenant briefing in the ballroom of the Thorne Crown Hotel. Owners and residents from all 6 buildings sat beneath chandeliers, while a glass replacement for their street rotated on a screen. Caleb Thorne presented first, polished and confident. Marlowe Row is structurally underused, he said. The proposal adds housing, public space, and permanent jobs. Mrs. Alvarez raised her hand. Public space after the public leaves? A murmur passed through the ballroom. Then Evelyn Thorne rose from the first row. Noah had not seen her in 14 years. At 19, Evelyn had studied at Hearth and Honey until closing. She and Noah spent one summer measuring old buildings for a preservation course. He remembered a girl who laughed only when she forgot to prevent it. The woman standing beneath the ballroom lights had not forgotten anything in years. The proposal is one option, Evelyn said. Structural and community impact reviews will happen before the board authorizes demolition. Her gaze moved across the room and stopped on Noah. Recognition reached her face slowly, like light moving beneath ice. Mr. Bennett. Miss Thorne. Caleb glanced between them. You know each other? We took a preservation studio together, Noah said. Evelyn closed the folder in front of her. Mr. Bennett was the only student who could tell lime mortar from Portland cement without touching it. You said I was guessing. You were irritatingly correct. Noah leaned back. Is the bakery one of the options under review, or is the review an option? Whatever memory had softened Evelyn disappeared. Everything on Marlowe Row is under review. That was not my question. Noah waited until the meeting ended. Around him, tenants surrounded relocation officers and collected packets. Evelyn spoke quietly with the company attorney near the stage. He approached when they were alone. You knew the acquisition included Marlowe Row. For 6 weeks. You could have called. Before the transaction closed, I was restricted from notifying individual tenants. After it closed, the letters went out this morning. That is not what I asked. Evelyn looked toward the emptying room. You are right. The admission unsettled him more than a defense would have. She opened her folder and removed a smaller envelope. This includes a fitted East Market storefront, 18 months without base rent, moving costs, and a purchase option. Noah did not take it. You prepared that before the letters went out, for me, yes. You still think an offer becomes fair if it is generous enough. I think a business with 40 years of local equity deserves more than the statutory minimum. Then protect the location where that equity exists. I cannot promise that. But you can choose a new location for me, calculate the rent, and decide when I should become grateful. Her hand lowered, though she did not put the envelope away. I am trying to make sure you have an option. You did not ask what I wanted. It might have changed this conversation. The offer remains available, she said. Noah walked away without taking the envelope. At the bakery that evening, Sophie was doing long division beside a cooling rack. Noah tried to explain the meeting without turning uncertainty into a promise. They may keep the buildings, he said. They may change them. We have time to make a plan. How much time? 11 months. Is that a lot? For a goldfish, yes. For us, we are not goldfish. She gave him the look children reserved for adults wasting language. Irene set a bowl of soup in front of Noah. Evelyn Thorne was there? He looked up. You remember her. She lived on almond tea and apricot scones for 2 summers. Of course I remember her. She offered to move us to East Market. Irene sat across from him. That is expensive. It is also not here. Both can be true. Noah tore a piece of bread in half. You think we should accept? I think you become angry whenever a choice arrives before you are ready to make it. We have a right to remain. Perhaps. But remaining and refusing to move are not always the same thing. Sophie looked between them. Is Evelyn the woman who owns our walls? Her company owns them, Noah said. Is she mean? No. The answer came too quickly. Irene noticed. Sophie noticed Irene noticing. Is she nice? Sophie asked. Noah considered the cream envelope still tucked beneath his arm. She is efficient. Sophie nodded gravely. That means you do not know. Evelyn returned to the bakery 2 mornings later with a structural engineer, a tablet, and shoes that had not been designed for flour. Noah was shaping brioche at the back table when she entered the kitchen. Public area is through the other door, he said. The engineer needs access to the basement. The basement needs sympathy. It will receive measurements. The engineer hid a smile. Noah led them downstairs and pointed out every cracked repair and damaged joist before the engineer found it. Evelyn watched him trace a repaired joint with his thumb. You still read buildings, she said. Buildings say what happened to them. People do too. Not always accurately. The engineer moved ahead to photograph the boiler room. Evelyn lowered her voice. Why did you leave restoration work? I did not leave. I came home. My father got sick. Then Claire was pregnant, and the bakery needed another pair of hands. Evelyn glanced down. I heard about Claire. Most people did. I wrote to you. Noah remembered the careful letter among the sympathy cards. It had asked for no answer. I know. You did not reply. I did not reply to anyone for a while. That was not an accusation. It sounded measured enough to be one. Footsteps sounded above them. Dad? Sophie called from the basement stairs. Down here. She appeared with her backpack half unzipped. Grandma said to tell you the mixer is making the death noise. It has 3 death noises. Which one? Sophie imitated a grinding motor so accurately that the engineer laughed. Then she saw Evelyn. Are you the efficient wall owner? Noah pressed his lips together. Evelyn's eyebrows rose. That description contains 2 factual problems. Dad said your company owns the walls. That part is temporarily accurate. And he said you were efficient. Evelyn looked at Noah. Did he? It was not a compliment. It rarely is when he says it. Sophie came down the remaining steps. Can you fix mixers? No. Do you know someone who can? Evelyn considered the question as seriously as if Sophie had asked for a financing model. Yes. Then you are useful. Noah covered a laugh with a cough. Evelyn took out her phone. Apparently. The repair technician arrived before noon. Noah found the efficiency infuriating. He found Sophie's delight more difficult to resist. Over the next week, Evelyn appeared often enough that the bell above the bakery door began to sound different when she entered. Some mornings she brought engineers. Twice she came alone and ordered almond tea at the corner table where she had studied as a teenager. You remember, Noah said. Your mother would be offended if I didn't. Through the kitchen door, Irene called. I heard that. Evelyn smiled before she could prevent it, and Noah saw the girl who had once laughed over a crooked cardboard model. Why did you take the acting chair position? He asked. My uncle had a stroke. Caleb prefers decisions he can defend in a spreadsheet. And you? Decisions that survive outside one. She opened the tablet in front of her. The structural report is better than expected. The 6 buildings can be retained. Hope moved through Noah before caution caught it. Can be is not will be. No. What is the gap? The glass proposal produces a higher immediate return. Preservation requires capital repairs, phased vacancies, and coordination among 24 leases. The board will not choose it because people like the brick. Then we give them another reason. Evelyn studied him. You still have your license? Inactive, not expired. Reactivate it. That sounded like an order. It was a suggestion delivered efficiently. For years, Noah had treated architecture as part of his life before hospital corridors and raising a child alone. His drawings waited upstairs beneath bakery invoices. I run this place full-time. You described the basement load path before my engineer removed his camera cap. She slid the tablet toward him. The screen showed a blank alternative proposal template. Bring me a plan the board cannot dismiss as sentiment. I can open the door, she said. You will have to build whatever walks through it. That evening, Noah carried his old drafting case down from the apartment. Inside were scale rulers and the mechanical pencil Claire had given him on their first anniversary. A note in her handwriting remained taped inside the lid. For the man who measures everything except how much he does. The note was memory, not permission. The dead did not owe the living predictions. Irene placed a fresh pad of trace beside him. Sophie climbed into the next chair with colored pencils. What are we drawing? A way for 6 old buildings to earn enough money to remain 6 old buildings. Can I draw people? They are usually the expensive part. For the next 9 days, Hearth and Honey became a bakery in the morning and a planning office at night. Maya Ortiz arrived with tenant law books and 3 legal pads. She had known Noah since school and could insult him in ways that improved his decisions. Within 10 minutes, she found a clause that would let the owner price everyone out through capital improvements. Noah crossed it out. Mrs. Alvarez brought enrollment numbers from the dance studio. The tailor provided 15 years of receipts. The restaurant owners produced delivery schedules, payroll records, and enough food to make every meeting last longer than planned. Evelyn came after work, always without her jacket by the second hour. Evelyn gave them no internal numbers. She asked questions that forced Noah to build stronger ones and model the worst case. At 11:30 one night, Noah found Sophie asleep across 2 chairs with her head in Evelyn's lap. Evelyn had not moved for nearly an hour. One hand rested lightly over Sophie's shoulder. With the other, she scrolled through a maintenance cost forecast. You could have put her upstairs, Noah whispered. She wakes when I move. She wakes when a moth changes direction. He lifted Sophie carefully. Her arms went around his neck without her eyes opening. You smell like bread, she mumbled. Occupational hazard. As he turned toward the stairs, Sophie reached one hand back toward Evelyn. You're coming tomorrow? Evelyn hesitated. If your father finishes the revised reserve schedule. Sophie opened one eye. That means yes. Noah carried her upstairs. When he returned, Evelyn was standing beside the window. She should not become attached to a promise I cannot make, she said. You came to 6 meetings in 9 days. For the proposal. You repaired her music box yesterday. It needed a battery. You knew which song she wanted before she asked. Evelyn turned toward him. What are you accusing me of? That is the problem. I do not know. The bakery was silent around them. Streetlights shone across the glass. On the table lay rent rolls, floor plans, and a plate with 1 untouched cinnamon knot. You asked why I did not call after the acquisition, Evelyn said. I told myself the answer was the transaction restriction. That was true for 6 weeks. It was not true on the 7th. Noah waited. I knew what this place meant to you. I knew what Claire meant to you. I did not know how to walk back through that door without looking as if I had waited for an opening. He felt the words settle between them. Did you? Wait? For an opening? Her expression became very still. Noah, I respected your marriage. I respected your grief. Those are not the same as having no feelings before or after either. He looked at the dining room, where she had studied as a teenager. You never said anything. You were building a life. And now? Now your building is in my portfolio. That is another efficient answer. It is the only safe one. Noah stepped closer. Safe for whom? The timer in the kitchen rang. Evelyn picked up her jacket. Your test loaves. Evelyn. The board review is in 12 days. Finish the plan. She left before he could decide whether stopping her would be honest or merely lonely. The next morning, Sophie's school sent home a family history assignment. Students were asked to create a small poster called "The People Who Made Me." They could include parents, grandparents, guardians, friends, teachers, neighbors, and anyone they considered family. Sophie spread photographs across the corner table after school. There was Claire, holding her as a baby, Irene dusted with flour, Noah asleep on the sofa with a picture book over his face, Mrs. Alvarez at a dance recital, Maya holding a birthday cake that leaned dangerously to one side. Sophie left one square empty. "Who goes there?" Noah asked. "I don't know yet." "Then you can leave it empty." Mrs. Alvarez says empty spaces get filled by the loudest person unless you choose. Mrs. Alvarez has opinions about everything. She says that too. Noah sat beside her. "Are you asking me something?" Sophie lined up the edge of a photograph with the paper. "Moms came to school today to practice the family breakfast." "I can come to the family breakfast. It is called that now because 2 dads complained." "Good. I know you can come." He waited. "I remember Mom's red scarf," Sophie said, "and her voice when she said my whole name. But I don't remember what she did when I had a bad dream." Noah's chest tightened. "She sat on the floor beside your bed, because if she climbed in, you stole the blanket." "Did she sing?" "Badly." "Worse than you?" "Much worse." Sophie smiled, then looked at the empty square again. "If I love someone else there, does it push Mom out?" "No." "Are you sure?" "Love is not a table with a limited number of chairs." She considered this. "Then why do we have so many empty chairs upstairs?" Noah almost answered with something easy. The bakery was busy. He worked early. Dating was complicated. Sophie needed stability. All of it was true, and none of it answered her. "Because I got used to not inviting anyone," he said. Sophie nodded as if he had finally used the correct unit of measurement. 2 days later, Evelyn joined the tenant meeting by video. The board advanced its schedule. You need commitments from 80% of commercial tenants and a 10-year forecast by Monday. Maya stared at the screen. "That is 4 days. I voted against the schedule. It passed." Noah watched the exhaustion beneath her perfect composure. "When did you last sleep?" he asked. "Not on the agenda." Sophie came through the kitchen holding a tray with almond tea and a cinnamon knot. "For Evelyn," she announced. "She is inside the computer," Irene said. "Then show her." Noah turned the screen. For the first time that night, Evelyn's face softened. "Thank you, Sophie. It will be here when you come back." Evelyn looked at Noah. "Monday," he said. "You will have the plan." They worked through the weekend. On Saturday, the bakery held a tasting event to collect pledges and document foot traffic. Customers, a food writer, and a redevelopment reporter filled the room. Noah was in the kitchen when Sophie found a piece of purple poster board left from her school assignment. No one saw Sophie write the sign. "Mom wanted. Likes cinnamon. Knows bedtime stories. Does not leave when things get hard." She taped it inside the front window. One customer thought it charming. Another suspected a social media campaign. The reporter asked whether Sophie's father knew. That was when Noah came through the dining room with the tray of honey rolls. That was when Evelyn entered with Caleb and the redevelopment team. And that was when the sign stopped being a child's private wish. Evelyn saw the phones, read the third qualification, and removed the paper from the glass. "Did your father approve this vacancy?" she asked. "He didn't know we had one." "Then the listing is premature. Are you throwing it away?" "No. The position is filled." She tied on the spare apron and stepped behind the counter. Noah followed her into the kitchen. "What are you doing?" The reporter was asking an 8-year-old whether her father is lonely. I stopped the interview. By announcing that you are applying to be my daughter's mother. What? I did not say mother. You said the position was filled. You made it larger. Her grip tightened on the tray. Would you prefer that clip to show Sophie asking strangers not to leave her? I would prefer you not answer for my family. The words landed hard enough that Evelyn set the tray down. You are right, she said. She untied the apron. Sophie stood in the doorway. You don't want the job? She asked. Evelyn looked at the sign in her hand. That is not a job anyone can claim without an interview. Sophie considered the correction. Dad makes people do 2 interviews. Sophie? And a trial shift. Evelyn crouched, so they were eye level. I should have asked before I answered. Would you have answered the same? Noah held his breath. Evelyn did not look at him. Yes, she said. Sophie nodded. Then you can keep the sign until the interview. She went back to the dining room. Evelyn stood. I am sorry, she told Noah, for the way I said it, not for meaning it. Then she retied the apron and carried the tray outside. By noon, the video had been posted from 4 angles. By 2, the phrase, "Cold Heiress fills bakery vacancy," was moving through local feeds. By 4, Hearth and Honey had sold every loaf in the building. At 5, Caleb asked Evelyn to meet him upstairs. Through the thin floor, Noah heard Caleb warn her that the video made her judgment and disclosure part of the board review. There is no relationship to disclose. Noah felt the sentence before he could remind himself that it was technically true. Caleb left by the rear stairs. Evelyn came down 10 minutes later carrying her jacket and the folded sign. After closing, Noah stood behind the counter, counting a register that did not need counting. There is no relationship, he said. Evelyn stopped. You heard. These floors were built before privacy. She placed the sign on the counter between them. A feeling is not a relationship, Noah. Neither is a sentence said in front of a camera. A relationship requires 2 people to choose it. You have spent 3 weeks choosing where I move, which deadline I meet, and what role you have in Sophie's life. I apologized for crossing that line. You apologized and kept the sign. Evelyn looked down at the purple letters. Because I wanted it. The bluntness silenced him. I wanted one thing in that room that was not a negotiation, she said. I wanted to be the person who does not leave when things get hard. And I said it the way my family says everything important, as if declaring it made refusal impossible. Noah came around the counter. It does not. I know. Do you? Her eyes lifted to his. I am standing here waiting for your answer. Noah thought of Claire's photograph, the empty chairs upstairs, and 14 years of Evelyn turning requests into plans because plans could not say no. Dinner, he said. Evelyn blinked. What? One dinner. No engineers, no board documents, no Sophie, no decisions about buildings. Is that the interview? It is the first one. Your daughter said there were 2. She is not in charge of hiring. From the staircase, Sophie called, Yes, I am. Noah looked toward the ceiling. Evelyn laughed. This time, she did not stop herself. Their first dinner took place late Sunday at a small restaurant where no one recognized Evelyn. She arrived before Noah and noticed his watch was still set 3 minutes fast. You remember too much, he said. I spent a long time pretending I remembered less. For 20 minutes, neither mentioned Thorne or Marlowe Rowe. Noah told her about Sophie refusing to eat any vegetable described as baby. Evelyn admitted she could not cook rice without turning the bottom into masonry. When the food arrived, Evelyn put her phone face down. Tell me about Claire, she said. Noah's hand paused around his water glass. Most people treated Claire's name like a structural weakness. Evelyn said it plainly. What do you want to know? Whatever you would want me to understand if this becomes more than dinner. He looked at her for a moment. She was impatient. She sang too loudly in the car. She could make 5 decisions while I was still defining the first problem. She hated early mornings, and married a baker anyway. Evelyn listened without arranging her expression. The last year was medication schedules and fear. After she died, people called me strong because I kept doing visible things. You raised Sophie. The whole street helped. Endurance became convenient. If I was the man who endured, I never had to admit I wanted something. Evelyn traced one finger along the edge of her napkin. I wanted you at 19. He gave her a surprised smile. You barely spoke to me. I corrected your drawings for an entire summer. You corrected everyone's drawings, not after midnight. Noah laughed softly. Why did you never tell me? My father called affection a debt with poor security. I learned that admitting attachment gave people a map of what to threaten. Hearth and Honey was one of the few places my mother took me after she left him, Evelyn said. Your mother let us sit for hours when we could afford 1 pot of tea. I did not know that. I made sure you did not. It was cowardly. Noah reached across the table. He did not take her hand. He placed his palm upward between them. Evelyn looked at it, then she chose. Her fingers settled into his. They stayed until the restaurant stacked chairs around them. The preservation plan was submitted Monday at 8:53 in the morning, 7 minutes before the deadline. It proposed a 20-year master lease to a tenant cooperative, phased restoration of the 6 buildings, 4 new apartments in unused upper floors, and shared service spaces that reduced operating costs. Historic tax credits and energy grants lowered the first-stage capital requirement. Percentage rent gave Thorne additional upside if revenue grew. Noah did not pretend the numbers were safer than demolition. He showed that they were competitive, over 12 years, and less exposed to construction delays. Evelyn accepted all 812 pages in the Thorne headquarters lobby. She challenged the wholesale forecast and permit contingency. Noah had an answer for both. For the first time since the acquisition, she looked proud rather than relieved. The board presentation is Friday. Will you vote? Yes. Legal reviewed the situation. A viral sentence is not a financial interest. She glanced toward the security desk. Come upstairs. That sounds less affordable. I want to show you something. In her office, Evelyn opened the original acquisition model on a wall display. 2 options appeared side by side. One was the glass redevelopment. The other was an early preservation scenario, prepared before the tenant letters went out. Noah moved closer. You had a preservation model. I asked the strategy team to create it during due diligence. The first preservation model failed the return threshold by 9%. So you bought the block knowing the board would choose demolition. I bought the block because another bidder intended to issue 90-day notices after closing. Noah turned toward her. You could have told me after. Yes, the same failure again. Care hidden inside control. A generous act delivered without consent, leaving everyone else to discover the price later. Why didn't you? Because if the board chose demolition, I wanted you angry enough to take the East Market offer. You wanted to manage my disappointment. I wanted the bakery to survive. Those are not the same. I know that now. Noah looked back at the 2 models. Why show me this? Because you asked for honesty. And this is the part that makes me look worst. It did not erase the mistake. It kept him in the room. No more protected truths, he said. Agreed. No private help that changes the competition. Agreed. And if the board rejects our plan, you do not buy me another bakery. Evelyn's expression suggested physical discomfort. Noah, that was not a negotiation. Fine. Say it. I will not buy you another bakery. You make it sound painful. Evelyn reached for his tie and straightened a knot that did not need straightening. You came to a corporate office wearing flour on your cuff. It is our strongest brand asset. Her hand remained near his collar. Noah touched her wrist. Is this another declaration? He asked. It is a request. For? She leaned closer, stopping before the distance disappeared. The second interview. He kissed her. It was not careful. For 14 years, Evelyn had built sentences around every unguarded thing she wanted. Noah felt the moment she stopped constructing them. When they separated, her hand was still twisted in his tie. "Did I pass?" she asked. "There is a trial shift. Your hiring process is excessive. Take it up with management." For 3 days, possibility arrived at the same speed as trouble. Evelyn had breakfast with Noah and Sophie, and produced one pancake Sophie declared legally round. On Friday morning, Noah entered the Thorne boardroom with Maya and representatives from every building on Marlowe Row. Caleb presented a disciplined redevelopment case to the board. Noah answered with revenue, vacancy, construction timing, and the cost of erasing a functioning commercial ecosystem only to build another. "Control is not the same as certainty," he told the board. "The glass proposal assumes 28 months from vacancy to occupancy. 3 comparable projects have averaged 41. Our plan earns rent during every phase." Evelyn asked the hardest questions. Noah answered all but one. At 12:20, the board recessed. Maya touched his shoulder. "You did well. That is what people say before votes they cannot predict. You still did well." Caleb stood near the windows, speaking with 2 directors. Evelyn had stepped into the corridor with company counsel. Noah's phone vibrated. Maya's did too. Then every phone in the room began to move. A local business account had published 3 internal slides from Thorne's communications department. One slide showed the viral video. Another was titled, "Community Sentiment Opportunity." The last used Evelyn's words in large type. "Position filled, humanizing the Thorne brand." Noah read the phrase twice. Suggested tactics included a family-focused campaign around the preservation vote. The slide was dated 2 days after the video. Evelyn returned to the room. She saw the phones and stopped. Caleb opened the post. Color left his face. "Who approved this?" he asked. Evelyn did not answer him. She crossed the room to Noah. "I have never seen those slides. Your communications department made them, without my approval, but with enough access to build a campaign around my daughter. I will find out who authorized it." Noah put his phone on the table. "That is the problem. Your answer to everything is that you will take control. What would you have me do? Step out." The room went quiet. Evelyn looked at him. "From the investigation, from the vote. The slides make the conflict real," he said. "If you vote for preservation now, every director can say the proposal is a branding decision. If you vote against it, they can say you are protecting yourself. Either way, Marlowe Row becomes part of your defense. My vote may decide the outcome. I am asking you to stop making your presence the condition of its survival." Pain crossed her face before control covered it. "And us?" Noah lowered his voice. "Sophie is not a campaign. She is not a promise you can make in public and explain in private. Until I know who turned that moment into a strategy, there cannot be an us. I told you I did not approve it. I believe you." That hurt her more. Then why? Because believing your intention does not remove the damage around it. The board secretary called everyone back to their seats. Evelyn stood in the center of the room, with the folded purple sign still inside her leather folder. Then she walked to the table. "Before deliberations begin," she said, "I am recusing myself from discussion and vote on both Marlowe Row proposals. The leaked communications material creates an appearance of personal and reputational conflict. Independent counsel will investigate its origin." She named Caleb acting chair and closed her tablet. Noah watched her leave the room without looking back. The remaining board delayed the vote for 7 days. By evening, the communications vice president admitted his team had created the slides without authorization. Evelyn accepted his resignation and appointed outside counsel. She did not call Noah. She did not come to the bakery. For the first time since the acquisition, she did not try to move the next event into place. Sophie asked about her on the second day. Is the trial shift over? Noah was rolling croissant dough. It is paused. Did she burn something bigger than pancakes? No. Did you? Maybe. Sophie stood on her stool beside the work table. The sign said, "Does not leave when things get hard." I remember. She didn't leave. You told her to. Noah set down the rolling pin. I told her to step out of a company decision. That was right. Did you tell her to step out of everything? He had. The vote boundary was right. Using it to escape uncertainty was not. Irene entered with a box of invoices. Your daughter has inherited my gift for timing, she said. I am aware. Sophie went upstairs to finish homework. Irene waited until the door closed. You were right to protect Sophie, Irene said. You were also relieved to find proof that wanting Evelyn was dangerous. The slides were real, so was the recusal. She removed the rolling pin from his hand before he flattened the dough into floor tile. Claire died, Irene said. Evelyn may leave. The bakery may close. Sophie will grow up and choose a city too far from you. You cannot turn uncertainty into betrayal simply because both make you afraid. Noah looked at the butter breaking through the ruined layers. What if I let her in, and Sophie loses someone again? Then Sophie learns that love can end and still have been real. She already knows pretending not to need it does not prevent loss. The next 6 days belonged to the plan. Without Evelyn's vote, Noah needed to win directors who had treated preservation as her personal project. He rebuilt the presentation around governance. Maya secured commitments from 22 of 24 leases. The theater company agreed to share space. The restaurants formed a purchasing cooperative, and Irene offered the tenant group a license to Hearth & Honey's wholesale brand. You never told me you would do that, Noah said. You did not ask. Everyone has become very interested in that sentence. Perhaps because you needed to hear it. The greatest risk was hidden structural damage. At 2 in the morning, Noah discovered that the east wall cracks aligned with a rainwater channel removed in 1968. If the municipal drawing confirmed it, the repair would cost far less than the reserve assumed. Evelyn could have opened the archive with one call. Noah called Maya instead. After 6 hours, they found the drawing. A revised engineering opinion cut the contingency by nearly 40%. On the morning of the final vote, Noah arrived at Thorne headquarters carrying one document tube and no expectation that Evelyn would be inside. She was not. Caleb chaired the meeting. The board asked fewer questions, but each carried more weight. Noah showed that cross-default protections, reserves, and performance reporting distributed rather than ignored the risk. Caleb looked at the revised structural report. Who commissioned this opinion? Caleb asked. The tenant group. The process needed a result no one could attribute to Ms. Thorne. The vote began at 11:40. 4 directors chose redevelopment. 4 chose preservation. Caleb held the final vote. He studied the 2 resolutions for so long that the clock became audible. This proposal is not sentiment or instinct, Caleb said. It is a disciplined operating alternative, improved by independent review. Caleb marked the page. I vote to approve the preservation master lease, subject to final credit documentation. Noah did not hear the next sentence. Mrs. Alvarez grabbed Noah's arm. Maya laughed. Irene, watching from the bakery, covered her face with both hands. Caleb waited until the room cleared. Where is Evelyn? At the municipal archive. Why? She sits on the foundation board. She recused herself from this vote, not from making sure the archive remains funded. Noah looked toward the document tube on the table. Caleb closed his folder. For what it is worth, the communications slides were never hers. She could have forced the board to let her vote after the investigation cleared her. Why didn't she? You asked her not to. Noah found Evelyn on the 2nd floor of the old courthouse archive, standing between shelves of rolled plans. Dust floated in light from tall windows. She wore a black blouse with the sleeves folded to her elbows, and a pencil held her hair away from her face. She looked up when he entered. "The clerk said you were here. The foundation is cataloging uncopied drawings before the roof work. We won." Something warm and painful moved through her expression. "I heard. Caleb voted for it. Then the plan earned the vote it needed. You knew he might. I knew he would choose the stronger governance case if you gave him one." Noah stepped closer. "You could have told me. You asked me to step out." There was no accusation in her voice. That made it impossible for him to argue with. "I was right about the vote," he said. "Yes, I was wrong about us." Evelyn set down the inventory sheet. "Which part?" "The part where I treated risk like evidence. The slides gave me a reason to believe something I was already afraid of. That you and Sophie would become useful to me. That you would leave once staying, stopped being useful." Her eyes lowered for a moment. "I made a promise to Sophie before I had earned the right to make it. Then I tried to defend it as crowd management. You had reason to doubt me. Doubt is not the same as a verdict." Noah stood in front of her. "I do not need you to save the bakery. I know. I do not need you to become Sophie's mother because she wrote a sign. I know. I want you at dinner tonight." Evelyn's composure broke in one quiet breath. "Is that another interview?" "No." "A trial shift?" "No." "Then what are you asking?" Noah held out his hand, palm upward, exactly as he had at their first dinner. "Stay long enough that none of us has to guess." Evelyn looked at his hand. This time, she did not need 14 years. She placed her fingers in his. "Yes." When they returned to Hearth and Honey, the whole street seemed to be inside. Tenants had brought flowers, sparkling cider, and a hand-painted banner that Irene refused to hang straight because, in her words, victory did not require symmetry. Sophie pushed through the crowd. She stopped in front of Evelyn. "Did Dad finish the interview?" Noah said. "There was no interview. You said there would be 2. Adults revise processes. That means you forgot." Evelyn crouched beside her. "Your father and I are going to see each other. We are going slowly. I am not replacing your mother, and you do not have to call me anything except Evelyn." Sophie looked at Noah. "Did you tell her to say all that?" "No." "Good." She turned back to Evelyn. "Can you still do bedtime stories?" "I can read. Dad can read. He does the voices badly. I can do them with dignity." Sophie frowned. "That sounds worse." Evelyn smiled. "I can learn." She returned the folded purple sign to Sophie. "I should not have taken this without permission." Sophie unfolded it and examined the creases. "Do you still want the position?" Evelyn looked at Noah before she answered. "Yes, but it is not a position. It is a family. That means no one owns it, and everyone gets a vote." Sophie considered this new governance structure. "Grandma gets 2. Naturally," Evelyn said. 1 year later, Hearth and Honey closed for 3 weeks. Not forever. The cooperative began the first restoration phase by connecting the bakery to the shared kitchen next door. Noah supervised the work with his architecture license active again. He hired another head baker for 3 mornings a week and accepted 2 small preservation commissions on buildings outside Marlowe Row. Irene retired for the 3rd and, she insisted, final time. Caleb visited every Friday for a honey roll and claimed it was part of the master lease audit. Evelyn remained acting chair until the board elected her permanently. She changed the acquisition process, so community impact reviews began before purchase approval, not after tenant letters. The policy did not make every project gentle. It made the decisions honest earlier. She also learned to make rice. The bottom still required soaking. On the anniversary of the preservation vote, the bakery reopened after renovation. Sophie, now 9, stood on a ladder beside the front window with a piece of tape between her teeth. "That is not level," Noah told her. "Grandma says victory does not require symmetry. Your grandmother has caused lasting damage." Evelyn entered carrying a box from the printer. She wore a deep green dress, and flour was already visible on one sleeve from helping in the kitchen. "The new sign is ready," she said. Noah took the box from her. "Which sign?" Sophie climbed down. Inside the box was a framed piece of purple poster board. "Mom wanted. Like cinnamon. Knows bedtime stories. Does not leave when things get hard." Across the bottom, Sophie had written one new line in gold marker. "Position filled." Noah looked at Evelyn. She did not make a declaration. She waited. He reached into the flour bin beneath the counter and removed a small wooden box sealed inside a clean storage bag. Sophie gasped so loudly that Irene shouted from the kitchen, "Do not start without me." Noah opened the box. The ring had belonged to no one else. He had chosen it with Sophie and kept it hidden for 6 weeks because some decisions deserved preparation, even when they did not require control. Evelyn stared at him. "This is not payment for saving the bakery," Noah said. "I know. It is not an answer to a child's advertisement. I know. It is not because I am afraid you will leave." Her eyes shone. "Then why?" "Because you stayed when I asked you to step back. You told the truth when it made you look worse. You learned that loving us does not give you control over us, and you made room for Claire's memory without treating it like a rival." He took her hand. "I love the woman who asks now." Evelyn laughed through the first tear. "You have not asked anything yet." Efficient as ever, Noah lowered himself to one knee. "Evelyn Thorne, will you marry me?" Behind them, the bakery had gone completely quiet. Irene leaned through the kitchen doorway. Caleb stood near the railway clock, holding a coffee he had forgotten to drink. Mrs. Alvarez had both hands pressed over her mouth. Sophie held the framed sign against her chest. Evelyn looked around the room that had once been the only place her mother could afford to sit without being asked to leave. Then she looked down at Noah. "Yes," she said. "If everyone gets a vote." Sophie raised one hand. "I vote yes." Irene raised both. "I have too." Laughter moved through hearth and honey. Noah slid the ring onto Evelyn's finger and stood. She kissed him before the phones came out. Later, after the first celebration and the second tray of honey rolls, Sophie hung the framed sign inside the window. The bakery lights reflected over the gold words, "Position filled," not because an heiress had claimed it, not because a father needed rescuing, not because a child had placed a vacancy in purple marker. It was filled because Evelyn had learned to ask, Noah had learned to answer, and all three of them had stopped treating love as something loss could make impossible. Outside, Marlowe Row glowed beneath the old street lamps. Inside, no chair was empty.